Hi, it's Alaska Granny. You can certainly see that the sky is beautiful here in Alaska, but the seasons are changing and fall is coming. It's a great time to be like the bears, get every last meal in that you can, and make sure that you have enough to see you through till next year. If you follow the news at all, you realize that there are food shortages. There have been many reasons why there are not enough of certain types of foods in our world today. One of the reasons is an ongoing conflict with Russia that affects the wheat production and the availability that not only has not as much been planted, the productions are lower. And then you might say, well, I don't eat wheat from Russia, but guess what? It affects you because all of the countries in the world are intertwined as to where the food goes. So whether you think you get it from some country or not, it affects what you will have available to you, because if countries can't buy it from who they used to get it from, they will buy it from someone else. And if you don't believe that the U.S. is selling off our resources to other countries, you better think again. So with export limits and flooding in many countries, drought in others, and even here in, say, California. Are you even aware that they produce rice in California and they're having a huge drought and there isn't any water? And rice is a crop that requires lots of water. The United States is saying that our wheat harvest is the worst it's been since 1962. And if you look at what the population was in 1962 and what it is today, we need to produce a lot more food. Drought also affects crops such as potatoes, because if they don't have the water, they're not going to be able to produce the potatoes. So the potato harvest is also way, way down. I found that the potatoes I was able to grow in my own garden this year were distinctly subpar. Many of the plants either didn't grow, or when a big wind came up, it blew the plants right off and broke them off at the ground. And so the production has been very reduced from what I would have expected, considering I planted more rather than less, but I ended up with fewer potatoes. We know that producers are having problems keeping up with the supply of cans and jars, that not only can they not get the packaging that they need, but some of the yields of the crops that go into those cans and jars are just not there this year. We know that they have had lots of farms laying fallow. We know that there has been a very big uptick in the price of fuel, and that fertilizer has been unavailable. All of these factors affect the food supply. So what are some foods that I'm stocking up on and recommending to you that you make sure you have enough going forward? I have 5 that I'm stockpiling and I'm recommending to you, because the harvests are just down, shortages are real, and many of the foods that you have in the store and on the shelf right now were last year's crops, which weren't exactly the greatest ever, and this year they're even worse. And so you may not see that shortages are there today, but you may find that the food is absolutely not available come in the winter or springtime, when all of the stored up foods and the small amount that has been produced this year is then used up. The first food that I'm stockpiling is rice. Get white rice. You can buy it 1 or 2 pounds at a time, or get a giant bag. You want to get white rice rather than brown rice, because brown rice has natural oils that will go rancid. Then you want to store your rice in an airtight container. Then think about the other products that you use that include rice. Maybe you like rice mixes. Get some of those. They're easy to prepare, they're full of flavor, and if basic rice is not available, what do you think is going to happen when you go and reach for your rice-a-roni, your Zatarans, the rice dishes that you enjoy grabbing out of your pantry, adding water and doing a little bit of cooking? You want to make sure that you have plenty of those foods too. I take mixes like these and I seal them into airtight containers such as canning jars to help them last longer. In just a cardboard box, it isn't going to last the longest that it could, because the air is drying it out, and the little bugs and critters can get in it and chew on the box and get into and infest your food. So the better that you store your food, the longer that they'll last. So if there's foods that you enjoy eating that include rice, get some now. The next food to stockpile is flour and wheat products. If you like to grind wheat or sprout wheat berries, stockpile those. I recently was able to buy some wheat berries from the LDS or the Mormon Church from their cannery that you can order online. I'll put a link to their store that you can order online. The long-term food storage from the LDS Church comes in 6 number 10 cans for the price. You're getting a box of 6 of any of the items that they have available. And they have had shortages just like everyone else. And so if you want to get a good deal on foods that can last a long time, then check out the foods from the LDS Church. It's already sealed up to last for 30 years. And so it's simple to buy it and set it aside and know that you have the food that you need. Flour is hard to store for a long time. The better that you store it, the longer it will last, but know that you have to rotate flour. It's not going to last forever. It just isn't possible. It goes stale. And sometimes you can open it up and you can smell that it doesn't smell very fresh anymore. And that's not the predicament you want to be in when there isn't any more to be had. You want to be stockpiling it and then rotating it so that you have as fresh a food as possible. Think about the easy foods you have in your pantry that are made from flour and from wheat. Macaroni and cheese, beefaroni, ravioli, soups and stews that have noodles or dumplings. Those are foods that are also going to be affected by a lack of wheat and flour. You might say, well, I'm gluten-free, so none of that applies to me, but it absolutely does. Because if people go to the store and they can't get the pasta that they want, they're going to reach for the gluten-free varieties. You may think that those foods are reserved for you, but they're not. They're reserved for anyone that comes to the store that chooses to buy them. And so if people can't get what they want, they're going to get what they can. And so the varieties that you want that are special to you should be something you for sure have stockpiled in these hard times. The next food in short supply is potatoes. And maybe you've been to the store and you either can't find fresh potatoes or they're not very good quality. And you will find that a lot of the potatoes that are in the stores now are actually last year's harvest. They store them in big old sheds and then they pull them out as the season goes along because potatoes may not even be harvested yet. The potato harvest is forecast to be much lower than in years past. So look for canned potatoes. Look for mashed potato mixes. Think about potato soups. And all of the hash browns, the dehydrated and frozen potatoes that you like, make sure that you have plenty of those so that you can feed your family the foods that you choose, so that you have what you want. And the prices are going up, and it only makes sense that as things become in shorter supply, the prices will continue to go up. That's just the way the economy works, supply and demand. The more people that want it, the less there is, the price just goes up. Potatoes are also in a mixed vegetable medley, so look over all of the foods that would include potatoes that you choose to eat and make sure that you have plenty of them. The next food in short supply is tomatoes. Not only are tomatoes harder to find, but the packaging, the cans and the jars are what are most problematic for foods like tomatoes. So if you use canned tomatoes, get a nice stockpile. Maybe you like to use tomato paste. Maybe you like tomato sauce, salsa, or even some pizza sauce. These are products that contain tomatoes that are going to be more expensive, maybe not as available. And if there's special varieties that you like, the variety might disappear. That's something that happened during the pandemic. For example, soup. You could still get soup, but instead of 158 varieties, there were maybe a dozen. You couldn't get the varieties of the foods that you wanted. And yet the price was still going up for foods that we didn't want. And yet we had to buy it if we wanted to continue to add to our stockpile and have the foods that we wanted and that we needed so that we can continue to feed our families. And that's something to think about. If it's something you like and you want and you can see it, get it now, because there have been plenty of foods that I've wanted over the last few years that are just not available anymore, or when I do see them, there's only maybe one or two, and so that's all that I can have. And it's not a matter of not having the money to buy it. the items are not there. But then it's becoming a matter of the price becomes to the point of, can I still afford it or not? One of the ways that I preserve food is using my dehydrator. For example, I dehydrated tomatoes, and they're a great way to have them to last in the pantry, because fresh ones, of course, are nice, but they aren't going to last forever. So find ways to make the foods that you can find last as long as possible, whether it's canning, dehydrating, freeze drying, just putting them in the freezer. Find a way to make the foods last as long as possible. Another food to stockpile is corn. Maybe you like cans of corn. You can have kernel corn, cream corn, but think about all of the other products that are from corn. Cornbread, cornmeal, corn tortillas, corn chips. Look at some of your other products, such as mixed vegetables have corn in them, and some of your soups like chicken quesadilla. This has corn in it. Corn is also something that I bought bags of frozen corn and put them in my dehydrator so that they'll last longer in the pantry. Then I don't have to worry about taking up freezer space, or if there's a power outage, I won't lose all of the food. A lot of it will be in the pantry, ready to last for a long time. If you want to use dehydrated vegetables, you can drop them into soups and stews and they rehydrate while your meal is cooking. I also stocked up on masa, which is like a corn flour, and I bought a tortilla maker so that I can make my own tortillas. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, make sure that you have the supplies and then try it out. See how easy or hard it is to make the things that you want. It can be challenging, but if we learn to make meals out of the basic foods, then we will be able to have better future going forward, because we can have variety and we know that we'll be able to utilize the things we have to keep our families fed. There are a lot of foods that are still available in the store. These are the 5 that I am stockpiling right now to make sure that I have plenty going forward. There are still many choices. Take an inventory of the foods that you have in your pantry and how can you add to those to make it a bigger, better stockpile. Also, take an inventory of the meals that you make. What are the products that you use on a regular basis? Do you have enough of those to last going forward? If you make pasta once a week, get some jars of pasta and some pasta noodles. Then you'll be able to make that meal. If you like to make soups and stews, have enough of the basics so that you can assemble those meals together. Whatever it is that you make, have more in your pantry so that you can reach in, make a meal, and keep going. And that's how you can have the best of every day, when you just keep your routine going. And then if problems arise, whatever they may be, you're prepared to face it, because you don't have the added challenge of an empty pantry and hungry tummies. You'll be able to just make the best of it no matter what. And that's why we want to be preppers. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.